Hello, everybody. My name is Anthony Andrades. I'm the head of Infrastructure Solutions Architecture for Schneider Electric. Initially, I was going to be joined by my friend and colleague, Steve Delaney, to do this presentation together, but unfortunately, you're stuck with me. So I'll try to do my best and keep it as entertaining and relevant as possible. So what I'm going to talk about today is building an enterprise container management platform, what we've done so far, why we did it, the kind of problems we encountered, the lessons that we learned, and what we're going to do next. So without further ado, I'll get started. So for us, that digital state at the top is what everybody, most enterprises, if not all enterprises, are seeking today. I am lucky enough to work for a company that considers itself wholly digital. It's in our DNA, basically. So the adoption of the likes of microservices, container-based microservices, automation on cloud, and DevOps for us is a natural transition. It's a natural step. But as well, it's interesting because this kind of journey towards a modern computing paradigm, if you like, also challenges the old notions of governance and compliance, security and risk management, while also kind of tempting you with being faster than your competitor and agility to market. But on the flip side of that, it also opens other things that you need to consider, which is as something as easy to deploy as a container en masse and industrially, how do you actually address the fact that, you know, if you've got thousands or tens of thousands of these things on your network, how do you keep control of that? How do you maintain visibility of that? And also, how do you associate that or map it to what you're consuming and how much that's costing you from an IT governance perspective as well. So this may ring true with some of you. Where I'm going to start is I'm going to start about why we did this in the first place. So containers, by their very nature, they're very easy to run, very easy to deploy, very easy to use. But the reality is that by their nature, they also open the door to a lot of questions around security, compliance, and protecting the business. And again, the question of integrated identity management, security management, asset management, and centralized control was always at the forefront of our line of thinking, because Steve and I have worked in infrastructure services for combined probably close to 40 years. So and there was a lot of other engineers who were involved in putting this solution together that I'm going to talk about. So at the end of the day, if you have no governance, pretty much you have only one outcome. A lot of vulnerabilities. Where did they come from? How were we doing vulnerability management? Yes or no? Division of standards, fragmentation of the ecosystem, different standards, lack of management, lack of visibility, lack of security, and basically why we built this container platform at the end of the day was to address all of the concerns that you see on the screen. So we're pretty happy, at least with the first version of what we did, and why we did it. So as I mentioned before, time to market, agility, speed are the reasons why you would start transitioning the way that you do application hosting and using containers more as the infrastructure hosting solution to build things. And this is our stack at the end of the day, or this was the stack that we started with, and the reasons why we did that. So Rancher, at the end of the day, I talked about the asset management and the centralization of the management and the integration with identity management, SSO, MFA, and the like. And this is why we chose Rancher, because for those of you that know Kubernetes well, you know that from a primitives perspective, it doesn't offer that today out of the box. So it was complementary, and it made a lot of sense very quickly for us 3 years ago when we started this journey to make that decision. Kubernetes, at the end of the day, is it's the operating system of the cloud. For those of you that are watching this video, most of you will probably know this, but I mean, at the end of the day, if you want to automate operations orchestration, have resiliency and high availability in an automated manner out of the box, Kubernetes delivers all of that. There was a reason why Google developed it as Borg, and why other enterprises have adopted it. Docker as a CRI is currently part of the runtime, although with the evolution of Kubernetes leaving Docker behind, we'll also leave Docker behind, and it makes sense from an engineering perspective. Sorry, Docker. I mean, you're still a great product, but I think the CRIO from an engineering perspective makes better sense. And then we're obviously securing the estate from an image assurance, you know, making that that supply chain wholly trustworthy from cradle to grave, you know, in terms of scanning the images and making sure they're clean. If they're not clean, we don't let them run, and that they're immutable when they run, and that essentially end to end they remain compliant. This is an overview of the architecture. So I'll start from left to right. We've got BYOSP, that stands for Bring Your Own Secure Pipeline. So we're generally pipeline agnostic. We do enforce standards with our registry at the end of the day, because obviously we're scanning our registry, and when you consider the amount of, or the percentage of images, container images in the Docker Hub that are insecure, you know, it makes sense to centralize your container images in one place and have the ability to scan. In future kind of iterations of the architecture and future improvements, we will be considering kind of starting with only a specific range of base images that people can use to develop on, and you know, we'll get to that point at some point this year or early next year. So you've got the whole kind of CI/CD paradigm running right the way through the middle of the stack in the middle, and then we've got obviously the customers coming through our production cluster. We don't expose non-prod to the customer base. The blue-green deployments and the like are handled from within the production cluster. Other elements of note of the architecture going down the stack, you've got AquaSec there, securing the registry, securing the runtime. The arrow is also present on the right-hand side in prod. And then we're also making sure that we have full integration with Elk as a service. So we're shipping Kubernetes logs using FluentD to Elk as a service. We're indexing them, and we have alerts modeled on top to make sure that that anything we don't like and we don't want to happen, such as people trying to bind the cluster admin role, for example, that kind of thing, is locked down. And the way that we've locked it down, at the end of the day, even though we do alert on things like that, is that we're using Rancher as an entry point for our customer base. And again, that's integrated with SSO. So at the end of the day, for those of you that aren't using Rancher but are using Kubernetes, the advantage of using Rancher on top of Kubernetes is the ability that you can bring in your authentication and authorization primitives from a corporate identity management perspective into play into Kubernetes clusters globally. So you could have numerous namespaces organized under a specific project, which is a Rancher element at the end of the day, resource. And those projects are the things that are permissioned from a single sign-on perspective, which is also a nice way to control and reduce any form of blast radius, for example, from a security perspective, from an authentication and authorization perspective. So, we don't expose the API, for example, outside of the Rancher UI to our customer base and to the majority of our operations staff. So all access and all API interaction is done via the Rancher UI, which is backed by single sign-on as well. And that's not to mention as well, obviously, the considerations, and it wasn't present on the previous slide, of the ability to secure service-to-service communication by the likes of integrated Istio that ships with Rancher as well. And also, obviously, the ability to dictate what services can talk to which other services in the same namespace or across different namespaces and across different projects as well. So it's a very robust solution. So we feel that it was best of breed architecture that we wanted to go live with, and that was why we went live with this. In terms of the lessons that we've learned over the past 20 months is, when we went live with 3 documents. Our architecture and engineering manuals. One was, we documented the entire build end to end of what I've shown you, and how it's evolved as well, including things like Istio and things like Argo CD, which is also present in the stack. All of it is in a single build and configuration document, which I think is reaching about, it's 100 pages in length roughly. But so it's fairly sizable, but for us, it's important to document everything we do so that we can democratize that knowledge outside of our group for people who want to come in and get involved. And then we've got an operational manual as well, which one synthesizes some of the key points from the main engineering document, so that operations, we can onboard operational staff relatively swiftly. And then we've got a user manual, which is a further reduction of the main build and configuration document, which is mainly for our end user community who are very keen to adopt this technology and very keen to adopt it in a secure manner, that are turning up and now in their masses, because it's definitely gaining momentum, and we're able to share our user manual with them to give them an introduction to how it's built, why it's built, the advantages, and how they can use it. And for us, one of the lessons learned, not that we ever let it slip really, is that all of those 3 kind of documents should be maintained every time. At the end of the day, an architecture like this is really scalable. So as you bolt solutions on the side of it to gain extra capabilities, it's important that you maintain your documentation as part of that process as well. Another lesson that we learned, that I said at the beginning, when people come, and they start using Kubernetes and they start deploying pods on shared clusters, for example, it's important that we allow them to manage their own costs, you know, because for us it's important that those costs are empirical, honest, and available for them to see how much they're spending, where are they spending it, and for us as well to be able to show and charge them back, and that the figures correspond basically to the cost information that we have. And we're currently using a solution called KubeCost to do that on all of our clusters globally. One other element, and this is what Steve was going to present, but I hope I'm doing him justice, is at the end of the day, when you go live with a system like this, being used to like the old paradigm of running things on servers, where typically, you know, it's you have scale up and scale out now in the cloud. You have to keep an eye on your Kubernetes clusters while they're from a capacity perspective. While the software itself is really, really effective at managing resources and optimizing resources, you know, that's the beauty of it. It doesn't negate the fact that you also need to be proactive in you know, educating and improving the way that your customers consume elements, you know, with proactive quota assignment, for example, on the namespaces and such, and also with the use of horizontal pod auto scaling, for example. Instead of them scaling up, you know, give them the concept of just scaling out temporarily and scaling back in as a much more effective and efficient way of using your resources. The fourth point, train your customer base. Some people might say this is obvious. I don't think it is. From what we've seen over the past 18 months, you have people who know more than us, and then you have people who are just starting out. So it's a very diverse community, and we really enjoy interacting with our customers and onboarding them and helping them achieve and be successful in what they want to do. But yeah, you know, for those of you that are at the beginning of this journey, you need to develop your training plans early on, because you will be delivering and repeating these kind of things a lot as you know, as these technologies gain pace. And the final point is always listen to your customers. I mean, the customer is always right. Maybe not always, but generally they're always right. At the end of the day, your customers represent the business that you represent, and if your business wants to achieve something, then you need to help them achieve that. So if there are any solutions that they need that aren't present, as I said before, you know, the solution is very scalable. It's really easy to bolt on a capability on the side of it when and where needed. And it helps the evolution of the platform at the end of the day, and that's the beauty of working with like microservice platforms, is the agility and the elasticity that it affords you to constantly evolve and put those Lego blocks of capability on the side of the solution that your business needs to be successful. So in summary then, that is where we started. That's why we did it, and that's where we got to, and this is what we're doing at the moment. So we've got some really interesting things on the roadmap. One, going from top to bottom, transforming our infrastructure further. We're looking at solutions like Harvester, for example, which would allow us to turn our Kubernetes clusters into infrastructure hosting options for virtual machines, for example. You know, so for those of you who know KubeVirt, it's a very interesting paradigm to think of not only having clusters for containers and then hypervisors for virtual machines, but bringing both of these workload classes together in the same place is a really exciting prospect for the next few years, especially for those of us who are trying to who are coming from large enterprises where we're trying to engender transformation, going from what we've got historically over the past 20 years of applications built on tin, on virtual machines, one application, one server, N-tier servers, pushing that forward into this new way of hosting infrastructure with the integration of cloud platform as a service as well, which is another really powerful building block in the story. Another element we're looking at is we want to simplify our architecture as much as possible with software as a service. Rancher offer the ability to host the management clusters as a SaaS solution. So we currently have it on IaaS. We want to move away from infrastructure as a service as much as possible, because for those of you who have been managing infrastructure as I have for the past 20 years, know that operating systems become obsolete over time, and then you have to go through the pain of upgrading those operating systems, babysitting those operating systems, patching them, rebooting them. Why not pass all of that pain off to a third party? Sorry, Ranch. What else have we got? So optimize reactivity with auto scaling. Probably should have done a spell check there. Yeah, this is something we need to look at with our worker clusters, basically. So, I said before about this horizontal scaling out and then back in on a needs basis. So we're going to be working on that this year. We're also looking into how we can improve our recovery times with the use of a combination of Longhorn and GitOps. So Longhorn, for those of you that don't know, is a data storage solution which allows you to stripe your data sets, your persistent volumes and key data sets backed by S3 if you're using Amazon, for example, across multiple regions. So if you have a failure in one region, then obviously you've got all of that persistent volume data in another Amazon region. And as long as your deployments are backed by manifests, then you can easily recover very quickly. And in some cases, well, in our case, we're going to look to automate that process as well. Again, another element here makes sense for us. We're going to try to move away from IaaS hosted worker clusters through the use of EKS and AKS. The main kind of difference in use case here is probably between the underlying subsystems of Linux and Wintel, for example, of which we have the need for both. And the penultimate point is, for those of you that don't know, Rancher have released a product called K3S, which is a lightweight version of Kubernetes into the market. It's quite a mature solution. So we've been working with them over the past few months to see how it fits into our strategic roadmap of more distributed locations, edge locations, moving out into still on-premise data centers where things can't be moved into public cloud and consolidated, basically. Co-locations, for example, is another good use case. So yeah, that's we're looking to industrialize that as part of the architecture. And finally, that's what I said. This technology is constantly evolving. We're constantly evolving with it as well. We're developing an open source strategy at the end of the day to partner up with other key partners in the space. Again, with SUSE and Rancher, we're partnering with, and also the CNCF as well, to work with them to see how we can improve our direction in those terms. And it'll continue to be an interesting journey and a lot of fun, which it's been up to this point. It really has. So I hope this presentation's made sense and it's not been too too tiring. My name's Anthony Andrades, and it was a pleasure to be able to speak to you all. And good luck on your journey, regardless of where you start. So, and if you would like, reach out to me on LinkedIn if you'd like a conversation.